Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a very pleasant night to you, my pack, and welcome back once more to Vega Conflict, and it's time for the showcase video for the tech that launched over 2 weeks ago at this point. That is going to be the Hellion for the Nightfall Coalition, as well as the shielding and the weapons and the upgrades. We'll start with the armor, then go to the shieldings, then go to the weapons, and finish up with the upgrades. But naturally, it always has to start with the vessel itself. So, I'll jump right into it, and we won't waste too much time today. Beginning with the repair time, it has a flat 2-hour repair time, nothing above, nothing below. It has 280,000 hit points, not too bad, could be better, but I also think the entire vessel could be reworked, but that's for a video in about a week. Maximum mass of 18,000 tons at Mark 1, 3,500,000 tons of cargo space, not too bad. Forward speed of 540 meters per second, rotation speed of 20 degrees per second, a strafe of 100 meters per second, a reverse speed, if I remember right, of 150 meters per second, and finally sector speed of 600 astronomical units per hour. Not half bad. Let's take a quick look at the modifiers and we'll move on to the armor. So, Spectre damage increase of 400%, Retrociders 400%, Retrosyn Consortium 400%, and a Blood Rebellion damage increase of 10%, a shield mass reduction of 20%, resurgence of 20%, and resistances are Altarian, Umbral, Pharmacon, Spectre, Retrociders, Retrosyn, and even a little bit of Blood Rebellion at the bottom to the tune of 10%, right above the Blight Nebula resistance. Onto the armor. Chronal Armor 1, mass of 2,023 tons, health of 420,000 hit points. It resists explosive, kinetic, and energy, as well as blood, all to 10%. 2 has a mass of 2,548 tons, 520,000 hit points, so 100,000 hit points increase for about 500 tons, and a 50% increase across the board for all of your resistances, as you went from 10 to 15%. So explosive, 15% kinetic, 15% energy, 15%, and blood resistance of 10%. So it's the only one that didn't get increased. Let's take a quick look at the level 3 and the level 4, then I'll get started with the shielding. Level 3 weighs in at 3,032 tons, has 650,000 hit points, and has 20% explosive resistance, 20% kinetic, 20% energy, and 15% blood resistance, so it gets a little increase there. And level 4, weighing in at 4,080 tons with 720,000 hit points, you see no increase in resistance for explosive, kinetic, or energy, or blood, but now you have quantum resistance, which is the special white damage type that correlates to the quantum enforcers, which we're currently fighting. Onto the shielding real quick. Temporal Shielding 1. Weighing in at 2,023 tons, not half bad. 255,000 points of shielding. Could be better, especially after the initial introduction, but not the worst. A defense of 90%, which means you'll always have a 10% bleed through. And a reduction of 50% against explosive, energy, and kinetic, and a 40% reduction against blood. So the only one that's going to be really eating you alive is going to be the Quantum Enforcer's quantum damage. And finally, at the very bottom there, we have a shield recharge rate of 1% per second, and a shield delay of 5 seconds. So as long as you don't lose the shielding, you'll begin to regenerate 1% per second after you get away from combat. Level 2 is 2,548 tons and has 412,500 shield points. Shielding points. However you want to say that one. It has the exact same defense, exact same reductions, and the only change is shield recharge goes from 1% to 2%. Let's take a look at the level 3 and level 4 real quick. We'll take a look at the weapons, go over the upgrades, and I'll get you all on your way again. Temporal Shielding Level 3, weighing in at 3,032 tons. It's not half bad. The energy for the shielding is 545,000 points. Defense is the same, explosive, energy, kinetic, and blood resistance are all the same. and you only have a 1% increase in shield recharge, so now you're at 3% and nothing else changes aside from you acquiring newest tech lab, stuff like that. And that is one thing I forgot to mention. All of this tech requires you to have the most up-to-date base for everything currently, from the workshop to your fleet bay, well, not the fleet bay, the ship factory, arms labs, everything like that. Taking a quick look now at the level 4, it weighs in at 4,080 tons, has 600,000 hit points. It has the 90% defense. It has the exact same reduction across the board, but there down towards the bottom you have a 20% against the quantum damage type now, and you get a 2-point increase in your shield regeneration, so it goes from 3 to 5%, and there are no other changes other than that. On to the fun one, that being the weapons, and we're starting with the Vicious Ray 1. Being an energy damage type, it's bringing 21,894 damage per second to the battlefield. It weighs in at 2,939 tons per weapon, with a range of 0 to 3,200 meters before any boosters are applied or anything like that, and the projectile speed of 4,000 meters per second, and it's guided as well, so it can never miss, and it'll hit the targets in under a second at the base range that it has. As for level 2, you're looking at 28,595 damage per shot, well, per second, and it weighs in at 3,994 tons. Range and weapon speed don't change at all. Let's go ahead and let's go take a look at the level 3 real quick, and then level 4. Then I have the upgrades to take a look at, coming in with 28,595 damage per second, and weighing at 3,994 tons, the Vicious Ray 2 isn't anything to scoff at. It's a typical energy weapon upgrade over its predecessor. It has no difference in range and no difference in projectile speed. That's about it. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at the level 3 real quick. And once again, just like the level 2 to the level 3, level 1 to the level 2, the level 2 to the level 3 is a huge step up in damage per second, weight, but nothing else changes. Right off the bat, you've got 38,130 damage per second compared to the 28,000 that you had on the previous one. That is a huge step up in damage. But it weighs 5,049 tons per weapon now. Range and projectile speed are completely unchanged. As for the level 4, the increase in damage is nowhere near as drastic as the level 2 to the level 3, which is kind of sad because it would have been nice to have had a massive step up again of nearly 10,000 again. But it weighs in at 5,973 tons, and it boasts 43,815 damage per second. And once again, range and speed are not affected at all. That's a little bit disappointing to say the least, but sometimes that happens. Now on to the next one, and that is the upgrades themselves, and then we'll get you all on your way. So first up, we have the Big Game Hunter, and it is a credit that is available only for... That's funny, looking at it, it really does say credit, but it's not credit, it's a reusable item. But it has a 0% ship mass, which means that no matter what vessel you equip it on, it won't increase the weight of the vessel. And all it does is provides a 15% damage increase against cruisers, and a 10% shield bypass bonus for any weapons that are on board the vessel at the time. Speed Chaser 1, it is once again a reusable item, but it says it's a credit, which is poor typing on whoever's part that named it, because it's not a credit, which is kind of sad. But in short, it has a 0% ship mass, so once again doesn't increase the weight. But what it does is it increases the weapon speed by 15%, increases ship rotation by 15%, and strafe speed by 15%. On a vessel like the Hellion, that's not very good because it itself cannot strafe very well to begin with. You're only getting a 15-point increase, and 15 points on top of something that's already pretty much pointless doesn't really change anything about it. The rotation speed could have been better, and I actually think that what they should have done was done a flat value. So weapon speed would have been nice to have a 20 or 25% increase, and then for rotation, a 5 or 10 degree per second rotation speed increase rather than the percent based. And then for the strafe, they could have gone with 25 or 50 instead of 15%. And then for later on, if they're going to continue using the upgrade credits and stuff like that for vessels, they could tune them a little bit back if they're a little bit too overpowered on other vessels. Those are just my thoughts. But that's it. I've taken up over 12 minutes of your time, almost 30. Well, actually, no. By the time I cut this video down, it'll be much shorter. So I do apologize if some of your time was wasted and whatnot, but that is how it is sometimes. But that's going to be it for now, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, I'll see you later.